From the OU Broadcast Center in Los Angeles, California, this is Brief News Brief, a brief look at today's trending news topics, proudly combating the thought police since 2016. Here's your host, James Heaney.
I'm James Heaney, and this is your Brief News Briefing. Today, the nation's top intelligence officials responded to questions in a routine yearly Senate panel threat hearing. It turns out that our country's greatest threats, and spoiler alert, it's not immigrants coming over the Mexican border, it's specifically Russia and China. They said that Russia and China are competing more intensely with the United States in a race for technological and military superiority. They testified that the two U.S. adversaries are more aligned than at any point since the mid-1950s. Does that make it official? Are we officially in the Cold War of the 21st century? Also, it sounds like our elections are still not safe. It's something else we should be afraid of. It's a threat. Our elections are at risk, and it could be cyber attacks disrupting the 2020 elections. What? We'll get on top of it, please. Also, you can't drop any fear. We still need to be worried about terrorists like ISIS, because, there's still a lot of hate for the good old U.S.A. So what's new, right? We got it so good over here. I mean, we do actually have it so good over here, nonetheless. North Korea is still out there, and it's unlikely to actually completely give up its nuclear weapons. Pretty much everything that they say publicly is at odds with everything that our president says publicly. It sounds like there is a clash of reality, but not just with what North Korea is doing. Trump says that Iran is still some big threat, but it turns out Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons and is continuing to honor the Iran deal, even though Trump ripped up the deal and moved forward to bump up sanctions on them. Iran says that when the sanctions do start to pinch, then they will start making nukes again. So we have that to worry about. It's whether or not we start, not honoring the deal that we had. Maybe we're not as level-headed as Iran. I don't know. Overall, the United States will be challenged in the coming years as nations try to exploit the weakening of the post-World War II international order and dominance of Western democratic ideals. Today, Roger Stone, the Mad Hatter of the Trump campaign, pled not guilty to charges stemming from the special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation of Russian interference into the 2016 U.S. election. It's hard to say so many times in a lifetime. He was arrested on Friday in a dramatic early morning bust by the law. Only thing missing was the Cops theme song. The drama was slightly overshadowed there by the fact that people were so busy celebrating Friday, Trump decided to reopen the government. Ooh, get back to work. Anyways, after his indictment on Friday, Stone embarked on a blitz of weekend media appearances to declare his innocence, criticized prosecutors, and repeated his pledge that no matter what, no way, no how, not gonna happen, he will never testify against the president. Well, Stone was indicted last week and accused of being the go-to man to communicate with WikiLeaks' Julian Assange. The indictment alleges that Stone sought hacked information before the election at the direction of an unidentified senior Trump campaign official. Who could it be? He faces charges of lying, obstruction, and witness tampering. The case will be tried jointly by the Mueller and the Mueller office. You know those guys. They're in the news all the time. And also, you might not realize it, but the attorney for the District of Columbia. And as an uneducated person, I want to know what's Columbia doing in our politics. Anyways, he is limited to travel between South Florida, Washington, and New York City. New York City! I heard they got great salsa there. And if you can only travel to a couple places, having New York included means you got a lot of fun to be had. Nonetheless, he's barred from possessing or applying to get a passport. Stone, a veteran GOP operative and friend of Trump for 4 decades, briefly advised the presidential campaign in 2015 and remained in contact with President Trump and top advisors throughout the entire election. Venezuela has degenerated into a failed state. It used to be the richest country in South America, and now it's starting to collapse. The chaos broke out on January 22nd, and it's only intensifying. There's a dispute going on over who the president of the country is after this recent election. Is it leftist President Nicolas Maduro or opposition leader Juan Guaido? The U.S. backs Juan Guaido, and it's weighing its options as to whether it wants to interfere in the continued fallout and the degeneration of the country and its economy. Now, I can't help but think, wow, maybe we're luckier than we give credit, because there was certainly a dispute here over who was president, but it didn't turn into the collapse of a country or an economy. Or did it? I guess we'll find out. Yesterday, the United States slapped sweeping sanctions on Venezuela's state-run oil company, and Venezuela's chief prosecutor responded to the sanctions by asking the Supreme Court to prohibit Juan Guaido from leaving the country and to freeze his bank accounts. To which Juan responded, "This is nothing new under the sun. This government's only answer to anything is persecution and oppression. We will continue to advance in our fight." The U.S. move freezes $7 billion in U.S.-based assets and blocks more than $11 billion in revenue that Venezuela would get from oil sales tax during this year. Steve Mnuchin said in a statement on Monday that these measures are going to help preserve these assets for the people of Venezuela. Now, oil sanctions, experts say, constitute for the biggest blow to the the populist Maduro, and the biggest blow that Maduro's ever confronted. Maduro rose to power in 2013 after Hugo Chavez died, and when he died, he named Maduro his successor. Protests in Venezuela are surging, and they're being met with harsh repression. At least 35 people have been killed, and more than 800 people have been detained in a week. More protest marches are scheduled to continue this week.